You have been growing garlic the hard way, and you probably do not even know it. Most garlic growers are making the same 3 mistakes. They are using the wrong container shape, they are planting at the wrong depth, and they are spacing their cloves in a way that guarantees smaller bulbs before the season even starts. And none of that is your fault, because every garlic growing video online tells you the same recycled advice. Plant 6 inches apart, keep it moist, wait until the leaves turn brown. That advice is not wrong, but it is missing the exact details that separate a disappointing harvest from one that actually fills your kitchen. Here is the part that will surprise you. The best container for garlic does not come from a garden center. It does not cost $15. It costs $1.50 at Dollar Tree. And when it is set up correctly with the right soil mix, the right planting method, and the right management strategy, it outperforms most traditional garden setups by a significant margin. Today, I am showing you exactly how to do it, step by step, from container to harvest. Before we get into it, drop your country in the comments and tell me if you have ever tried any spring garden items from Dollar Tree. I want to see where in the world gardeners are watching from, and I want to know what you have tested from Dollar Tree in your garden this season. Hack 1. Why the Dollar Tree bucket is the right container for garlic. Most garlic container growing videos recommend any pot with drainage holes and at least 6 inches of depth. That advice gets the job done at a minimum level, but it never explains why certain containers outperform others for garlic specifically. And the Dollar Tree bucket exploits that gap in a way most growers never think about. Here is what garlic needs from a container that most videos leave out entirely. Garlic bulbs develop from the base of the plant in a circular pattern, expanding outward from the planting point. Each clove planted produces 1 bulb, and that bulb needs both vertical depth to form its wrapper layers and horizontal space to swell to full size. A container that is too shallow squeezes the developing bulb from below. A container that is too narrow crowds the bulbs against each other and against the container walls during the expansion phase. The standard Dollar Tree 1.5-gallon bucket, the kind sold for seasonal planting, craft projects, and general storage, gives garlic exactly the geometry it needs. Approximately 7 to 8 inches of depth for adequate root development and vertical bulb formation. Approximately 7 inches of interior diameter at the base, which comfortably fits 3 to 4 cloves spaced correctly without the crowding that kills yield in smaller containers. At $1.50, you can run 4 buckets for the price of 1 basic plastic pot from a garden center. That means 4 independent growing containers, each with its own clove set, its own drainage management, and its own soil mix, for under $7 total. But before any of that matters, there is a preparation step that most garlic container videos skip completely. And skipping it is one of the most common reasons container garlic produces small, underdeveloped bulbs. Hack 2. The drainage setup that changes everything. Here is a gap that sits in almost every garlic container guide in plain sight. They tell you drainage is essential. They do not tell you how much drainage is actually required. And the difference between adequate drainage and excellent drainage is the difference between a harvest that impresses you and one that disappoints you. Garlic is one of the most rot-prone crops in the vegetable garden. The developing bulb sits in the soil for months, and any prolonged contact with standing moisture creates the exact conditions for fungal infection and basal rot. Disease that destroys the base of the bulb from the inside before you ever see a symptom above the soil. The Dollar Tree bucket does not come with drainage holes. That is step 1 of the setup, and it needs to be done correctly. Do not just punch 2 or 3 holes in the center of the bucket base. That is what most people do, and it creates an uneven drainage pattern where moisture pools in the corners of the bucket base and stays there. Instead, Punch 5 to 7 holes evenly distributed across the entire base, 1 near each corner and 2 to 3 across the center. Then punch 3 to 4 holes along the lower side wall, about a ½ inch above the base. These side drainage points allow moisture that pools at the very bottom edge to escape even when the bucket is sitting on a flat surface that partially seals the base holes. This drainage configuration keeps the lower root zone consistently moist without ever creating the standing water zone that causes rot. Set the bucket on 2 small stones, a brick fragment, or a wooden slat after the holes are in place. Elevating the base even a ½ inch above the surface beneath it ensures that the drainage holes function freely rather than being partially blocked by contact with the ground. That is the drainage setup. Simple, effective, and almost never explained at this level in competitor content. Now, here is the soil mix that goes into it. Hack 3. The soil mix that grows bigger. Garlic bulbs. Most garlic container guides say use quality potting mix with good drainage. That is the entirety of the soil advice, and it is genuinely not enough information to grow large, well-formed bulbs. Here is what garlic's root system actually needs from its growing medium, and why the standard bag of potting mix from the hardware store consistently underdelivers for this crop. Garlic produces a dense, fibrous root network that spreads horizontally and vertically from the base of each clove. Those roots extract both moisture and nutrients from the surrounding soil simultaneously through the full growing season. A soil that compacts under regular watering, which most standard potting mixes do, gradually restricts that root network and limits bulb expansion during the most critical development phase. The mix that prevents compaction and consistently produces larger bulbs in a container is built from 3 components. 50% compost. Finished compost, not standard potting mix labeled as containing compost, provides the dense organic nutrition garlic needs without the compaction risk of heavier soil blends. It also supports the microbial activity that makes nutrients available to the root system continuously rather than in spikes. 30% coarse perlite. Perlite is the permanent aeration component. It does not break down, does not compact, and maintains the air pockets in the mix that keep the root zone oxygenated through the full growing season. This is the ingredient most home growers skip, and its absence is why so many container soil mixes slowly turn dense and restrictive as the season progresses. 20% coarse builder's sand. Sand improves drainage velocity at the bucket base, ensures complete drainage after each watering session, and adds the structural weight that prevents the lightweight mix from drying out too quickly in hot weather. Mix all 3 components thoroughly before loading into the bucket. Fill to approximately 2 inches below the bucket rim. That gap is your watering clearance. It prevents overflow during irrigation and gives you room to add a thin mulch layer later in the season if needed. This soil mix inside a correctly drained Dollar Tree bucket creates a growing environment that costs less than $3 per container to build and outperforms most expensive specialty containers because of how precisely it is engineered for garlic's specific needs. Hack 4. Planting. Garlic cloves for maximum bulb size. This is the section where the majority of container garlic mistakes happen, and where the gap between a $5 head of garlic from the farmer's market and a disappointing harvest from your patio is almost always created. Competitor videos give you 2 pieces of advice on planting garlic. Plant flat side down and plant 2 inches deep. Both of those are correct. Both of them are also incomplete in ways that cost growers real yield. Here is what they leave out. Clove orientation matters beyond just flat side down. When you press the clove into the soil, the pointed tip should be facing straight upward, not angled, not tilted slightly. A clove planted at even a small angle grows a curved shoot that wastes energy correcting its direction before it ever reaches the surface. A straight upward orientation produces a straight shoot that emerges faster and directs all of its early energy into root development below, rather than directional correction. Planting depth is more specific than most guides acknowledge. 2 inches is the general recommendation. But in a container, where the soil warms faster than in-ground beds, planting at 2.5 to 3 inches provides a small but measurable thermal buffer that prevents the developing clove from experiencing temperature stress during late spring heat spikes. Deeper planting in a container also anchors the clove more securely, so that the early root development phase is not disrupted by surface soil movement during watering. Spacing within the Dollar Tree bucket is where most first-time container garlic growers make their most costly mistake. 3 cloves per bucket, spaced evenly in a triangle pattern, with each clove approximately 3 to 3.5 inches from the others and from the bucket wall. That is it. 3 cloves. Most people try to fit 4 or 5 cloves into this size container. The result is garlic bulbs that compete for both nutrients and physical space during expansion. They press against each other as they swell, deform, and end up smaller and oddly shaped. 3 correctly spaced cloves in this bucket will produce 3 times the yield of 5 crowded cloves. After planting, water thoroughly until moisture flows from the drainage holes. Then do not water again until the top 2 inches of soil are completely dry. Hack 5. Managing the season for the biggest harvest. Getting garlic into the ground correctly is half the job. Managing what happens from planting to harvest is the other half, and it is the half most videos summarize in 2 sentences. Here are the specific management steps that make the difference. Sunlight positioning. Garlic needs 6 to 8 hours of direct sun per day to develop full, well-layered bulbs. But here is the management detail most guides skip. In a container, you can rotate the bucket 90 degrees every 5 to 7 days to ensure all sides of the plant receive equal light exposure. Garlic plants that receive uneven light produce shoots that lean significantly toward the light source, and leaning shoots correlate with slightly asymmetrical bulb development below. Rotating the bucket costs 10 seconds every week and produces rounder, more evenly developed bulbs. Scape removal. Hardneck garlic varieties, which are the varieties that produce the best flavor and the largest bulbs, send up a flower stalk called a scape approximately 6 to 8 weeks before harvest. The scape is a curling, snake-like stem that emerges from the center of the plant. If you leave it on the plant directs significant energy into producing a flower and seeds. That energy comes directly from bulb development. Remove the scape by cutting it cleanly at its base as soon as it has made 2 full curls. Do not wait until it straightens. By then, the energy redirection has already been happening for weeks. Early removal is the single most impactful management step in the final stretch of a garlic season, and it is mentioned in almost no beginner container garlic content. Watering in the final 4 weeks. As the lower leaves begin to yellow, which is your first harvest signal, begin reducing your watering frequency. In the last 2 weeks before harvest, stop watering entirely. Dry down conditions allow the papery wrapper layers of the bulb to set properly, cure partially in the soil, and develop the tight, firm structure that gives garlic its long storage life. Garlic harvested from wet soil has soft, poorly set wrappers that break down quickly in storage. Dry down garlic stores for 6 to 8 months under the right conditions. Hack 6. Reading the harvest and getting it right. Garlic harvested too early has underdeveloped wrapper layers and reduced flavor. Garlic harvested too late has wrappers that have begun deteriorating in the soil, which shortens storage life dramatically. The window for optimal harvest is specific, and most guides describe it so vaguely that growers miss it consistently. Here is how to read it precisely. Count the green leaves on your garlic plant. Each green leaf above the soil surface corresponds to 1 wrapper layer around the bulb below. When you have 5 to 6 green leaves remaining and 3 to 4 have yellowed and died back, the bulb is at peak development. That is your harvest window, not when all leaves are brown and not at the first sign of yellowing. To confirm, gently scrape away soil from the top of one bulb with your finger. The bulb should feel firm and round, with clearly defined individual cloves visible through the outer wrapper. If the cloves press together without definition, the bulb needs more time. If the outer wrapper has already begun to crack and separate, you are at the outer edge of the optimal window and should harvest immediately. Tip the bucket onto a tarp and empty the soil block gently. Lay the harvested bulbs in a single layer in a shaded location with good airflow for 3 to 4 weeks. Do not wash them. Do not refrigerate them. Let them cure dry. The wrappers will set, the flavor will concentrate, and the garlic you grew in a $1.50 bucket will taste better than anything sitting on a grocery store shelf. Keep growing.